Hi, this is Frid from the Drive Syntax and English in Color. And I feel very, very lucky today because I have the privilege to be talking to Stormy May. Stormy May is the maker and director of the great documentary, The Path of the Horse. And I always like to have people present themselves and their work because I always feel they know so much better what they're about and what their work is about. But I just wanted to say quickly how I met Stormy. And there was a case of serendipity again. Serendipity is one of my favorite words, and and it's also a phenomenon that I really like. I became vegan, and a few years later, I chanced upon Emily from Biteside Vegan, and she interviewed Ren Hurst, and I was in awe and bought Ren's book and was amazed. And I contacted Ren and got in touch with her. And then I saw that there were all these interviews with Ren on a channel called Our Horses. I thought, what's that? I checked it out and I found there was this lady, Stormy May, and that she had made a documentary, The Path of the Horse. I watched it. Again, I was in awe. And then I kept following her on Facebook. And a few weeks ago, I saw that she had this course on offer about being present and awareness. And I had become interested in that topic. So I just like on impulse, bought her course. And I'm very excited that I did. So that was a long introduction. I hope it wasn't too long. Thank you, Stormy, for being here. And would you please share with us what your calling is and what you're all about?
Yeah, thank you, Fred, and thank you for having me here. What a pleasure to do an interview with somebody who's actually been through my course, so we'll have a lot to talk about. Let's see, for people who don't know me, I was just born loving horses, and horses were just in my blood, and I was lucky enough to get my first horse when I was 10. And at that time, I just did what people did with horses. I rode, I trained, I was very active in Pony Club and got to be a chief horse management judge there and a national examiner and did very well. But there was something about my relationships with individual horses that didn't feel right. It felt, as I was getting better and better, I could do more and more, and I got more and more difficult horses. But what had always really interested in me is having a great relationship with a horse. And when you're focused on competition and teaching people how to do more with their horses, a lot of times the relationship gets lost there, and you go and sell that horse and buy another horse that's more suitable. But by that time, I had gotten 2 mares who just were not agreeing with my plan for them. And, since the other people I knew that had horses like that would just sell them or turn them out to pasture or just, be done with them because they weren't going to do what I wanted to do. But I had had enough success and saw people ahead of me that were more successful training, and it didn't look good. It didn't look like the kind of life that I was looking for. So I decided to just take a break, stop everything, and go searching for what could help me have a better relationship with these horses.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what led to the Path of the Horse documentary, because I figured it would be, I wasn't a filmmaker at the time. Actually, I had done one video, an educational video called Understanding Bits, bits that you put in your horse's mouth. And actually, ironically, after I finished that video, I decided to go bitless because I saw that you could actually have better control that way.
Mm-hmm.
So not having much film background, I decided, well, I'm going to go on this big journey, and there's these real amazing people that I want to interview. And I didn't have the money for it, so I sold the ranch that I had just bought a few years earlier, so that I would have money to do it, because I knew I didn't want to continue in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and made the movie, and it just exceeded all of my expectations. And it's 10 years later now, and it's still every day new people are watching it and just being blown away by what was in there. So I'm really blessed that it turned out to be such a timeless message, and people find it when they're ready. But I went beyond what I found there very quickly. Actually, at the same time as I was making it, I was learning about mindfulness and the meditation, although more like what gets in the way of meditation, what gets in the way of us really being here now and experiencing the gifts right now. Why are we always seeking something out in the future? So I found human teachers then that were able to show me what was in my own way of having this extraordinary life. And as a result of me getting out of my own way, my relationships started working both with animals and with humans. And it's like I had developed this power to go for what I really wanted to by seeing what was in the way in little moments. So after practicing this for so long on myself, a couple of years ago, I started thinking, well, is this something that I can bring to other people with my unique angle of doing this with animals? Because animals, as we know, are almost always present. And so to use them as partners in becoming present and touching into that, the joy and the creativity and the wonder that's available in every moment. What I did was I went back and got together the best of the best exercises that I use, still use, to get me there, and then started teaching the course, and it just went really well right from the beginning. Almost everybody who's gone through it has just like had this big realization of where we're getting in our own way, and how, most importantly, how to get out of our own way so that we can be present with what's happening right now, which is the only place we can be happy, the only place we can have peace, the only place we can have harmony is right now. So all of my efforts are focusing on how to get right here, right now, and free of whatever thought pattern I might be stuck in at the time.
May I go back to the documentary and ask you about that? I would love to know about the timeline. You have this, you came back from your journey, and actually before that, more about what made you stop. You said these mares stopped you because and you didn't want to sell them. So there was this, what was the connection? You loved them and you didn't want to control them anymore, right?
Well, if it was in their best interest, I would. And I still would, say there's a wound and I need to put a halter on so that I can read something, which I rarely have to do. We can do almost everything at Liberty now. But I wanted to understand what they were saying and be able to honor what they were saying. I mean, they were basically saying that I'm violating them. Like, what I wanted to do, they're like, excuse me? No, you don't do that with us. Yeah. And the trainer in me was like, well, yes, I do. And I'm going to force it if I have to. But it just didn't feel good. If I was honest with myself, it didn't feel good to me. It didn't feel good to them. So it's really like, okay, I give up. I mean, the one mare, I fought with her for 11 years before I finally said, okay, you're right. I give up. The other one, it only took me a year before I said, okay, let's go where you want to go. And that's where the harmony came in. And that's where I was able to get what I was really looking for, which was these deep, harmonious connections. It wasn't winning a show. I mean, it was an empty thing that you keep chasing forever. Yeah. But the relationships are what I had been searching for since I was a kid. I mean, that's why we all really want horses. It's the winning and the riding and all that kind of comes after. You're like, well, what do you do with a horse? Oh, well, you ride it. But really, most people, that's not where it starts. It starts with like, wow, I want to have a relationship with this fantastic being. How do we do that? So then you go hire a trainer and they tell you, well, you strap this on like this and you pull this and then you do that. And it just, it didn't feel right. And I was good enough at it and I had done it so completely that I didn't feel like there was some extra thing I was missing along that path. Whereas a lot of people who maybe see the path of the horse, they can kind of get it, but they're not done doing what they're doing. Like they still need to keep riding or keep training or keep doing whatever they're doing, which, it's fine. You got to have your own path. But when you're ready to go to a deeper connection, that's where I can show people how to get there.
Isn't it miraculous though, that somehow it was like coming home, wasn't it? When these two mares said no, but other horses must have said no and you couldn't hear it. And then these, can you explain that? Had you start mindfulness before or did you start mindfulness after that point?
It was kind of about the same time. As I was making the documentary and as I was trying to understand these horses, it all happened. It was about 2005 that this all
so I'm wondering, did you find mindfulness because you were looking for answers, or did mindfulness lead you to hear the horses better?
It all happened together. I mean, I was looking for what to do with my life. And understanding horses was what was the most fascinating to me. So, of course, I used what I was learning from human teachers with my work with the animals.
And so it sort of happened simultaneously, and it's hard to pinpoint. It's just a miracle.
It really did. And that was when I had my worst human relationships too. I was in I was in a long-term relationship and it was just going south. It was just not it was not going well. So I was in a state of desperation, like anything, show me the way out of this. So I found it all at once. And then once I found the keys of the direction to walk, how to look, it just, and it all came together, and both the horses and the human relationships are now, people who knew me before then and know me now, it's just, I'm a completely different person. What I've learned and continue to work on every day is something that really makes it so that people feel comfortable being around me. Before I was full of unspoken judgments and ideas of how others should be and this and that. And now it's more like a state of wonder. It's like, wow, why would you do that? Tell me more about that. And the animals feel that too. It's not like I don't have an agenda for them. It's I go to them and say, well, how would you like your life to go right now? Within the confines of, yes, you're still captive, and yes, I need to do my best to take care of you. But beyond that, what do you need today to help your life be more fulfilled?
That opens up, there's so much to talk about. That opens up one burning question that I always have. We wake up and suddenly we see, oh my God, these animals are enslaved. That's what I felt. Like I have this dog who's 14. I got him when he was 2 years old. He was a stray and I brought him home, and I turned vegan in 2011, and suddenly, I went on this journey, and suddenly I realized, oh my God, he's a slave, and what have I done? And the small comfort that I have is that I rescued him. But still, he's in an apartment, and so you have your horses, so they are domesticated. How do we deal with that? Did you feel guilty? I felt guilty with the guilt, and how we can't undo it.
Yeah, definitely there's part of me that wishes it wouldn't have to be this way. That not that we should turn our captive horses out, but that it wasn't even a question in the beginning, that horses are just out doing their horse thing and humans are doing their human thing. But that's not the world we live in, and they probably would get hurt by traffic if they were running around in the roads. So so it's a real just practical situation. In general, I mean, I used to move around a lot, and I would try every time I moved to make it to be to a place that was better for the horses, like more
Mm-hmm.
space or more peace, or, you know, more stable herd. So
Mm-hmm.
in that way, I feel kind of good that, you know, that they've known more and more freedom from
Mm-hmm.
their point of view. You know, it would be real hard for me to now take them back to what we had started with. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I would feel that. Um, but it's all individual, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and we're all doing the best we can. So, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I just kind of leave it at that. And, you know, as long as they're looking happy and healthy and
Mm-hmm.
um, socializing that with their own kind, that I
Mm-hmm.
think that's, I find a peace in that, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most of the time I do too. I just think I rescued him. You know, he would have been chained up otherwise, and now I love him to bits. And I sometimes do find that with interspecies relationships, not only with human animals, but whatever you see, both parties benefit. Somehow I feel that our horizon gets broadened, and that there is something to be said for interspecies relationships. Somehow I feel that I feel more deeply, and I sometimes think that Rudolph feels more deeply too, because he knows something beyond
Mm.
dogs and can communicate beyond dogs. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think that's just a matter, just a result of, you know, we are living together. We are bringing them into our world, you know, as if they're in captivity, they're learning our ways. Um, and who knows if it's better or worse or whatever. Like
Mhm.
that's one of those things that'll just drive you crazy, you know.
Yes, that's true.
So
Don't.
that's when I use presence to just come here and now and recognize that I don't have the answers,
Mhm.
but I can feel into this moment and feel for what I want to connect with in this moment.
Mhm. And when you connect with the horse in this moment, that's a kind of communication, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And can I ask you about that? You know, some people say, well, they can hear animals speak, and you know, there's this book also. Oh, and I'm so bad with titles. It's kinship between all life or something like that.
Kinship with
Um,
all life.
with all
Mm-hmm.
life, yeah. And this guy seems to have almost verbally hurt his dog, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I can't, you know. Of course, I haven't practiced enough yet. I haven't done your course enough yet. But I also, you know, at the most, I feel that I can sense something, you know, and it's just like a vague guessing and a communion. Is that, how do you experience it?
Yeah, and what I've experienced is that it's a little bit different for everybody. So
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, he might have gotten actual verbal words, and I've certainly been with people who are like, you know, oh, the horse is screaming at me for his breakfast, you know.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's generally more like a sensation or just something out of the blue, like oh, I got to go check on that horse, and then I'll see that she's gotten caught somewhere that she shouldn't have been,
Oh,
you know.
wow. Mm-hmm.
So it's nothing that I can really plan on, but the more I'm present and not caught in some story, the more likely I am to pick up on, oh, the dogs need water, or oh, you know, it's time to eat, or you know, whatever they might be sending, I'm probably going to catch it if I'm not preoccupied with my own problems, plans, and relationships.
Mm-hmm. As I often am.
Right. So it's about coming back to that point of stillness and wonder over and over again. And that's where you're present, and then you can connect with them being present and asking you if they need something or showing you something. But the main important point, is to get out of your story, to get out of, thinking you need to figure this out, and just being in the moment. And then depending on, I think, you personally and how you experience things, like some people will get colors, some people will get this vague sensation, some people will get words. And it varies. Even, people who usually get words might get sensations sometimes. I remember there was a time when I just remember I had this burning question to connect with Patrick, the horse that you see at the end of the path of the horse. And, it was just driving me crazy. This was real early on in this path. And then I got the realization that he's talking to me all the time.
Oh, wow.
It's just me not being in the place to receive it. So once I realized that, I don't, it's not a more doing, it's a less doing, it's a relaxing, it's getting into the stillness. And that's where the thing will arise or not. If there's nothing there, there's nothing there. But driving yourself crazy about it is keeping you away from it. So that's where you just come back to one of the exercises, be present, try and be present for an extended period of time. And then that's how you get better at recognizing, oh, the horse needs something right now, or the dog needs something.
Is Patrick the one where we have these shots of you feeling so lonely and where you feel so isolated and so stupid? You say that.
Yeah. Yeah. He was an amazing horse. He died before his time of colic. So that was very sad. But yeah, he was just, he was a character. He was a jokester. Actually, Ren came over and got to meet him a couple times, and he was just full of himself. So I was very lucky to have a partner like him to go with me all the way from, I had him sent to me as a 3-year-old to start under saddle and ride and train. And he was easy. He was just like, yeah, whatever. No big deal. It was the mares that were telling me that this was not okay. But then when I switched with all of them to basically doing things with them rather than to them, it took a long time, because by that time he had a lot of years of me doing what I wanted with him. And he's just like, you're fine, but you do what you're doing, and I'm going to do what I'm doing. So it took probably a couple of years of him mostly just out in the field before he really realized I'm not going to ask anything like that of him anymore, and that he can come and engage and we can have fun together.
So he basically had to learn to have fun again as well, almost.
Well, a different way of having fun with me. Like he was always perfect. He was always, he knew very well how to be a horse. And it was that we were discovering together this new language between us. So that's what really took the time. And first it needed to have enough time for him to just kind of decompress and do whatever he wanted before he was really interested in connecting with me again.
Wow. That required quite a bit of patience, I bet.
Yeah, but I think I was also detoxing too. I was also relaxing and letting go of thinking that I needed to, be the trainer and know what was going on. So I think we both needed that time to just stop and refocus and come back together. And now it was interesting because I did have a very close relationship with him, and we could do a lot of liberty work together. But even that now I've pretty much let go. I don't do any sort of training with the horses other than, hey, I need to take care of your feet, or the vet's coming and we need to check your teeth. I might do getting in the trailer, do a little bit of that, but I don't do any of the Spanish walk or the rearing or any of that anymore. Just, I don't need to. I've shown myself how to do it, and I've proven that I can do it. But at the end of the day, I found it gives me a closer relationship with that particular animal.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm missing out on my human relationships, like for me, the world didn't need another trained horse. The world didn't need me to train another 10 horses in my lifetime. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, been there, done that. Now, how can I enjoy them enjoying themselves?
Mm-hmm.
How can I just let go of that last bit of agenda and get on to me in my human relationships? And then, I still caretake for horses, but it's nothing like it used to be. But now there's what I was really looking for, which is just to honor these beings and support them in doing what they want to be doing.
Mm-hmm. But it involves, I mean, so you go and visit with them and just check on them, or is it also then having a good old chat in some way, or not
Oh,
even?
they really like me to be scratching them as much as possible. It's like, no, I'm not your scratching slave either. So, because now they demand things of me. It's like, no, I didn't come out here to scratch your butt, Um, but in there, I have a trampoline set up in the pasture, so I can just sit on the trampoline and they can come up and hang with me without pushing their bodies into my space. So just it's creative. Like, there's no final solution. It's just, how
Mm-hmm.
do I want to spend time with you today?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So your main work is now more with humans, and is it more for humans how they can have a relationship with horses that's different, or how they can have a relationship with themselves, or both?
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, most of my exercises in my course can be done with or without animals. The
Mm-hmm.
animals aren't
Yeah,
aren't
I can attest to that. Yeah,
aren't
actually.
needed, but
Yeah.
it adds another dimension when you are doing it with the animal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I found that basically the more we understand ourselves, the more we can control our own state of being,
Mm-hmm.
the more we're going to be able to connect with everybody, humans or animals or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
so really my focus is, like a good way in for me is to notice my negativity, what little things are annoying me,
Yes.
and why is that? Like, is there something intrinsic about that thing that's annoying, or is it just me being annoyed with it because I don't think it should be that way? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's really what it comes down to. It's That's what keeps us from experiencing the bliss of our human existence, is because we think it should be a different way. Like, you shouldn't have said that, you shouldn't be doing that, I shouldn't be blah 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 blah. But the fact is, this is what's happening, this is how it is. And
Mm-hmm.
if I can step out of the place where I'm being so judgmental about it, then I can connect with the other, because I'm not trying to manipulate the other, whether through force or positive reinforcement, to be different than they are.
Mm-hmm. Well, when I went through your course the first time, I feel when I at least need to go through it multiple times. I'm a slow person like that. Um, I I've I didn't notice any judgment I had of my dog, but I notice, and I still notice, that I have a lot of judgment about myself with regard to him. Like,
Yeah.
I sometimes, what gets in the way with me is stories about how I didn't do this, or he's in pain and I should have fed him this or that, and that doesn't help him either.
Right. And it doesn't help you, because then when you're with him, you're feeling guilty, you're feeling like you're
Mm-hmm.
not good enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have the exercises to recognize that it's going on in you, and how to
Yeah.
step out of it in a moment.
Mm-hmm. And then that clears the space for actual. well, for actually doing something productive, like
Mhm.
really feeling what could help him now.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that the past is gone. It's only right now, and so the more you're clear and connecting right now, the more
Hmm.
you're going to be in that space to come up with those new creative solutions that are going to connect you, because you're there. You've let go of the guilt, you've let go of the unworthiness, and
Hmm.
coming from a more clear space inside yourself.
Well, sometimes I feel it's like brushing teeth. I have to do it every day, and I will never be done.
Yeah,
Is it?
no, yeah, that is how it is. It's
Mm-hmm.
in some ways it's kind of like imitating somebody who's already free. So you do
Mm-hmm.
these exercises to get in the space where, like, well, if I could let go of this, what would I feel like? How would my life be different if I didn't have this thought?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so it's, you still have the thought, but you're exploring, well, what would it be like if I didn't have this thought? And right there, if you're questioning yourself, you're not stuck in it anymore. Just
Mm-hmm.
the act of questioning brings you out of it. And
Mm-hmm.
then you can get a better look and you can decide, do I want to keep thinking this? Do I want to stay here? Or can I get on to the next thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I feel that the conversations you had with us via Zoom in your Facebook group were really vital.
Mm-hmm.
I personally really needed that connection and this guidance. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes such a difference between
Mhm.
if you're just reading about it, like
Yeah.
maybe you read Kinship with All Life or you read Eckhart Tolle, and then somebody actually looking at you and saying, oh, do you see that story? And oh, yep, I've heard that one before. Somebody reflecting back to you makes all the difference in the world,
Hmm.
because otherwise we're just trapped in our own minds and we think we might understand it or not, but without having somebody else out there to verify, it's you're not going to get where you could get with somebody helping.
Yeah. We need each other.
Hmm. Yeah, and for me too. I mean, that is exactly why I teach it, is
Hmm.
because then, I mean, I know this is the way out. I've experienced it over and over, but just like with you, sometimes you forget to brush your teeth, and you forget to be present when you're doing something that you do every day.
Hmm.
But then when I'm talking about it every week with people who are going through the course, it's like,
Yes.
oh yeah, okay, this is the way out. And they're
Yes.
having their revelations and I'm having my revelations. So
Yes.
it
Teaching
really
is the
is.
way of learning, isn't it? I,
Exactly. Yeah.
that's one of. I mean, sometimes I feel it's almost a selfish thing to teach. I love teaching so much because I always learn something when I teach.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
can't guarantee. I mean, I think my students do too, but certainly I always walk away wiser.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And it's not even necessarily something I get as we're talking, but then, 10 minutes later, I'll be thinking about it as I'm doing something else and it'll come back to me like, oh, yeah, got it. Okay, now I'm going to go deeper.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's
finding a reason to focus on this is so important.
yeah. It's it's maybe a trite metaphor, but it's still a good one with these layers of the onion. It's just
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not something that you just get it and you're done,
No,
but
no, no,
you
no.
have the power and the exercises to get there again and get there again and get there
Hmm.
again, there
Yeah,
again.
yeah. That's why
And
it's so good that it's not over after the course because you're in the group
right.
and you can go
Hmm.
through it again. I actually really feel that you need the lifetime access because
Hmm.
it's like a journey you embark on, and the
Hmm.
journey is home.
Yeah, and what
Yeah.
I've noticed in the group is that sometimes people will kind of drift off for a while, and then
Hmm.
they'll start to experience those old problems again, and then they'll come
Hmm.
back and they're like, "Oh, yeah, okay, got it.
That's
Thanks
right.
for being here."
I shouldn't have strayed.
Yeah, this is the way out, but it's
Yeah.
it's hard to remember because our society doesn't reinforce it. Our society doesn't say, "Oh yeah, you got to be present. That'll solve your problems." I mean, no, it's like you got to buy this, you got to do that, you got, it's all these other solutions, but they're not the solution. They're not getting you out of your own way. So that's why I love having the group that is continuing on, because we're all at our different layers of the onion, and there's a spot to come back to where everybody knows the same exercises, and sometimes even people introduce new ones and everybody tries it out. It's like, oh wow, that's great. Or
Yeah, and it's good to have a bunch of exercises because some just are not for you. It's just
yeah,
and we need to be the big girls and boys and decide, well, this one just does more harm than good because it just triggers me, and
right.
I don't have to like everything.
Mm-hmm.
Just try
Yeah,
out what works.
yeah. And so there's exercises that can apply in every waking moment,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're walking, whether you're about to fall asleep or about to wake up, or whether
Yeah.
you're walking or driving or whatever
Mm-hmm.
you're doing, talking on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that will apply to that
Mm-hmm.
moment that you could use to get yourself into the state of presence.
Mm-hmm. I have two more questions, if I may, and they're
Mhm.
not related, I think. One has to do with your work. Like, being present is nonverbal, right?
Mhm.
So, in a way, while we're talking, are we present? Can we be present while we're talking with
That's a
each
good
other right
good
now?
question. Yeah, so let me go back. So I would say the main defining characteristic of being present, the way I'm using it, is that you're not thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost impossible to talk without thinking. But what happens is you go back and forth really quickly. So if
Mm-hmm.
I say, okay, be present now for the next breath,
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of stop your thought for one breath. And then you think, okay, is that breath done? Can I think now? Like it's going to come right back. So,
I love
so
that. Can I think now?
right. Is it time to think? Those thoughts are very tricky things. Um,
Yes.
so like say one of the exercises might involve counting. And so
Mm-hmm.
obviously if you're thinking 1, 2, 3, those are thoughts, but
Mm-hmm.
hopefully in between those, you're present again.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get caught in a thought, like say you get caught in a thought for more than one breath,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to lose count. You're going to forget what number you're on if you're honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a way to monitor for yourself. Am I present or am I thinking?
Mm-hmm.
So as you're thinking or speaking, you're not present, but in the immediate next moment, you could be present again. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really a back and forth like that. And there's
Mm-hmm.
no just being present. You can't just be present. It's
Mm-hmm.
how long can you be present? That's a good question.
Yeah.
If you can be present for 2 whole seconds, that's wonderful. That's amazing. You'll see a difference in your life if you can start even with that amount of honesty. Like, okay, I'm going to try and be present now for 2 breaths and see if you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, there's a lot more to do than just be present over and over and over again. You need to see what are those troublesome thoughts that are coming and how can we kind of knock them a little bit looser so that we aren't so stuck to them.
Mm-hmm.
But presence is kind of the main important part of the work, is coming present over and over again, recognizing the beauty, the ecstasy that is in this moment, no
Mm-hmm.
matter what. I mean, if you have a breath, you have more than some people have, right?
Yeah.
And when you get in an accident or get the wind knocked out of you and you don't have that next breath, you recognize what a gift each breath is.
Mm-hmm.
So coming back to that innate human gift that we all have is that we can breathe and be present and aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
um, Aware of that's a gift and it's not taken for granted. We might not get the next breath.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps lead us into a state of wonder and gratitude for what we already have, even if it's only a breath that we have.
Mm-hmm. And like right now I'm talking to you and I'm excited about this and I feel really in flow and happy. But I guess how, and that's what I was curious about. I mean, I find this valuable, that
Mhm.
it's not being present. Is that being present? Is it a kind of different kind
Um,
of presence?
yeah, I would say in the course, we focus more on the negative things, like what are the negative things that you want to
Mm-hmm.
get out of?
Mm-hmm.
Because the positive stuff just isn't a problem. You know,
Oh, I
it's
see.
it's
Uh-huh.
not presence, but why would you want to ruin that? You know, why would you want to get out of that? So
Yeah.
we don't really focus on, if you're having a good time, great.
Yeah.
And what we're going to do is going to get you into being able to be in that positive state more often.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when I would say maybe this is for the advanced course, you start noticing where the positive really isn't present either. But for
Yeah.
now, it's basically, you know, giving you a hand up out of whatever hole of negativity you've found yourself in,
Mm-hmm.
and getting back to the positive feelings. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not like the fake positive, like, oh, just everything is sunny here and I'm not going to think of anything negative. It's much deeper than that. It's finding that real place of, it's not even positive. It's like a neutral but restful, peaceful
Mm-hmm.
place of connection
Mm-hmm.
where there is no separation. You are all one with
Mm-hmm.
your the nature and the animals and the humans. So it is beyond the positive, but you know, for now, most people don't have any problems with being happy and being positive. So we'll just let that be.
Yeah, but it's interesting. So, you know, so many people say, "Oh, you want to get into the state of flow, this famous state of flow," and
Mhm.
I can easily get into that every day. You know, when I work, when I write, when I talk to people, I feel and flow. I feel in the present. But I guess now, after having taken your class, I see, well, in a way, that seems not to be it, which
Yeah.
at first seemed like a disappointment because I thought, well, flow is so cool, you know.
Yeah, enjoy
Mhm.
it. Actually, I'm making a new series of audios right now.
Mhm.
And one of them is how to get into the creative flow,
Mhm.
maybe using your animal as an assistant.
Mhm.
Um, but it is it's not presence. It's
It's interesting. See, that
but
was
you
eye
dip,
opening.
yeah, you dip into presence, and then like for me, as I start getting towards meditation, that's where all the real juicy creative ideas start flowing. And then I
Mhm.
usually just stop the meditation and start, you know, doing my thing from a more positive centered place.
Mhm.
So it's like you can dip into that place, and then when you latch on to the good positive feelings and, ah, yes, this is what I want to create,
Mhm.
go from there for sure. And that's one real good use of presence, is to, it's like recenter, refocus, and then continue on where you want to be going, rather than I'm caught in all these negative thought loops that won't leave me alone.
Mhm. Yeah. I don't know whether the other question fits, and one of them is sort of too big. You know, I'm vegan, and I'm just assuming you're too. Or
I've
sort
I've
of,
been able to become vegan because of this. This is awesome.
what is
Um,
that?
this is called Huel. It's like human fuel, and
Oh.
it's a it's just a powder that you mix with water, and it's vegan and it's totally nutritionally balanced. So you
Mm-hmm.
could live on it.
Oh,
And
cool.
that
Mm-hmm.
was the problem with me before, is that I know nothing about nutrition. I could care less about nutrition. I could care less about eating, actually. You know, I
Oh,
know I have
wow.
to do it, but I'm just not a foodie, and
Oh.
probably I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't raised that way.
Mm-hmm.
So the struggle for me before, you know, I always wanted to be vegan. I mean, who wants to eat animals or animal products if you don't need to?
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't feel like I knew enough to make the switch and be healthy, you know,
Mm-hmm.
especially because I don't like to cook, I don't like to shop, I don't like any of that. So really, when I found Huel, it was like the answer to all my problems. It's like you can use that as much or as little as you want,
Oh,
and
wow.
then you just add whatever else you want on top of it, you know. So usually I'll drink that for like breakfast and lunch, and then maybe make like a vegetable soup for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it just, that was, I was, I was lazy about it for a long time. Yeah, I wouldn't eat flesh, but if there was cheese on something, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but now with this, I find like I'm not searching for that other thing that I need, that I don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, for anybody else who's in that same boat, and it's really economical too. I think it's like less than $2 a meal, or about $2 a meal or something. So
Mm-hmm.
just having that in my cupboard, I know there's always something I can go to that's going to give me exactly what I need and not what I don't need. So
Mm-hmm.
actually, I'm talking with them now to try and see if we could expand this to feed our starving population with, something that's
Yes.
vegan and nutritionally balanced. I mean, wow, what a difference in the world that could make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. And have you felt when you made the switch, have you felt that awareness work and presence work was easier, or did you not feel any difference?
Um, I can't I can't say that I notice. I mean, the big difference I notice is that I'm not constantly searching for something to eat. So
Mm-hmm.
that probably helps me be more focused and present with whatever's happening, because
Mm-hmm.
now food just isn't an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I I don't know. I think people are just where they're at and stuck on
Mm-hmm.
whatever they're stuck on, and I I don't feel like I've had enough personal experience to say yes, it made a difference, or no, it didn't. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
just feels way better to me to know that I have something I can go to that's going to nourish me and be good for the planet. So,
Mm-hmm.
it eased that part of my worldly stresses.
So it was a mental thing more than like a physical or spiritual thing for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I kind of always wanted to be vegan. Like there,
Well,
I.
I did actually. I wasn't aware that it was an option in a way. I was
Mhm,
really I just when I was little, I didn't like my bunnies being killed. I hated that.
mhm,
And I saw a baby calf being taken away from its mother, and I was heartbroken.
right.
And then I was told there's no other way, and then I somehow pushed it out of my mind. I'm good at pushing things away. That's why I need your course.
Mm,
And but then suddenly my sister said read Eating Animals, and I read it, and it was just scales falling off my eyes, and I just thought,
mhm,
how could I have been so blind? I wanted to be like that all my life, and why didn't I do it?
mhm,
And I just made the switch immediately, 100%. And I went through detox. I really felt I was detoxing. Then I
mhm,
started reading about it, and then I found out that it's actually healthier for you, which I didn't know when I made the decision.
mhm,
And but then I really felt different. I felt more aware. I felt that I noticed things more. I noticed my body more. I noticed also sad things more. I was more simply more aware,
mm.
and I found that fascinating. And but I guess everybody has a different experience with that as well.
And I wonder if maybe with mine being more gradual, that I didn't notice as big of a shift,
Hmm. Mm. Yeah,
gone.
it was mind blowing,
Mhm,
and that step opened up my interest in meditation.
mhm,
That's when I started being interested in it at all.
mhm. Interesting. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and so it somehow I felt that led me to write a new ultimately, because then I was just looking for things.
Yeah, other people who are walking a similar path, and
Yeah, and it's just
yeah.
waking up and just doing things differently. Hmm.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's interesting, and it's mysterious, isn't it? How something, we were talking about that earlier, how somehow we go along, and something mysteriously happens, and everything shifts. And it's not something I did somehow, it just was given to me in a way.
Well, you were ready for it, like when you came upon
Mhm.
me in my course, you were ready. You were looking for, how could I make this work? How can I, what she's offering here sounds like just what I want, and how can I make use of it? So, there's things that you get introduced to every day that you're like, nah. There was something in you that was like, yeah. How can I do this?
Mm-hmm.
So I think your focus and your being ready for it were a huge part of it.
Yeah, but it's still mysterious what makes you be ready for something, isn't it? It's
Mm-hmm.
exciting in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But it also is really helpful to, it stops one from being judgmental, at least me, because I feel like veganism was like a gift that was given to me. And now this curiosity about these other ways of being, it's as incomplete as I still feel. It's just like a gift that I was able to see that that's something that I might want. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not
Yeah.
like my achievement, it's not, it's just a gift.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's kind of how it came to me too. I mean, it was just really random chance that I found the teacher that really set me on this path. And
Mm-hmm.
it was actually, my dad had gotten involved with him. I had moved up to go to college, and my dad was still in my hometown, and he got connected with this teacher, and
Mm-hmm.
he was with him for like 4 years, and he just went through these incredible changes. I'm like, wow, whatever my dad found, that's real. I mean, this is my dad changing when I'm in college.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't happen. I
No.
haven't seen anybody else's parents do that.
No.
But like, he just became softer, and his heart was open, and he became more bold. And it's like, wow, this is my dad. It was amazing.
Yes.
But then I thought, well, that's great for him, but I'm on my own path. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But then actually the group of people moved up to where I was living, like within 45 minutes of where I was living. So I thought, well, if I run into them, I'll give it a try. And then I did. That was like,
and
wow.
that was in 2005.
That was 2005. Yep.
Right at the time when your horse said,
Well, the horses had been saying, but it was when I decided to listen. That was when I had lived my horse dreams enough and gotten, well enough known and established to see that it wasn't going to get better. Like I'd hit, the top of the game there. And a big thing with that was seeing the people who were further along the path, and their lives were incredibly stressful. They were not nice people generally, and not necessarily talking about the people in the path of the horse, but most of the regular trainers and people that I came across. It's like I didn't want to be like them. Yeah, they could win at the shows, but it just didn't look nice. They were stressed. They were getting hurt. They were breaking their collarbones because they were being thrown from their horses. It's like, no, that doesn't look like where I want to be going.
Yeah.
So I was really looking for a different model to follow, somebody who had great relationships and knew how to set other people free. And
that sounds so good.
Yeah. And then that's what I've become myself. I mean, because that's, I think, why I've been given these gifts, is just to pass them on, just, to be a conduit. And I find the more I pass it on, the more I'm able to do it myself, so I can pass on more. So really, it's not my day. It's lived for others, lived for what can I pass on.
Wow. Well, that seems like a good place to stop. Although I could talk to you for hours. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you. And we will have many more. Just probably not on Zoom, being recorded.
Thank you so much. And I will see you in class.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.